Oops. Welcome to the Lift Heavy Run Long podcast, episode number 121 with Nugget Johnson. You can find us at www.liftheavyrunlong.com, on Twitter and Instagram at liftrunlong. Also, feel free to email me directly at the address wilson@liftheavyrunlong.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you're not a member of our Facebook group, you should be because we want you to be there. Search for Lift Heavy Run Long Community and request to join right now. My name is Wilson Horrell. I am one of your hosts. I want to remind you that the LHRL podcast is not censored. So if you have kids in the car or are listening with your family while you eat dinner, which I'm sure most people do,
that's what they want to listen
doing
to
the
us.
kids' homework, whatever it is, all bets are off. You're on your own. Lift Heavy Run Long has an app.
We do.
And I want to tell you about it. For $3.99 a month, you can be a member of the Lift Heavy Run Long Community app. And with that, you will get 3 bodyweight exercises per week and also have 4 barbell strength exercises and 4 daily WODs. You will also have unlimited access to our trainer, Valerie Hunt, who is the queen of the fitness world and the running community. If you don't know who Valerie Hunt is, go to runrx.fit and look her up. She is very well known, very respected, respectable, and we're lucky to have her.
And just an all-around good human being.
Absolutely. And for $9.99 a month, you can have access to all of the programs that Lift Heavy Run Long has to offer, whether that be 5K programs, up to 100-mile programs, to triathlon programs, deadlifting programs, recalibration programs in case
obstacle
you're in a funk,
races,
Spartan races,
whatever it is, all kinds of races.
We
got
can
you
do
covered.
anything.
You can do whatever you want for $9.99 a month.
Be all you can be with our app.
Be all you can be.
Sign me up.
The goal of Lift Heavy Run Long is to bring fitness to as many people as possible, as inexpensively as possible. So if you know someone who would benefit from the Lift Heavy Run Long app or fitness in general and doesn't have $3.99 a month to spare, then please email me at wilson@liftheavyrunlong.com, and you or they or whoever is free to use the app free of charge. I am sitting next to the most wonderful person in the world. Vaughn, keep your seat. Thank you.
You're not sitting next to me. That's for sure. Not with that intro.
The lovely, beautiful, and intelligent Dr. Amanda Kimsey Horrell, jacked and tan.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. What's new?
Some new running shoes, maybe?
No.
No.
Fresh out of the washer, though.
They look shiny.
She rinsed them off.
You know how I like jump over puddles and stuff. I don't like to get my shoes dirty.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope. No shoes. Just went back to the gym today after 2 weeks off.
Yeah. Well, you
So,
needed some time off.
yeah.
Have to take a week before a race, and then when you run a race, you got to take a week after. I think
Or
that's
else,
fairly
why not?
common.
Why run
Yeah.
it at all if you can't
I mean, you can't be hurting
binge
all the
eat
time.
for the week after?
Oh, speaking of binge eating, so I did pretty bad this past week on my nutrition, and I logged it all for my
There
nutritionist,
you
which
go.
was hilarious. I was laughing as I was logging, like, this is terrible. She's going to freak out, but she appreciated my honesty.
Right.
She's like, wow.
Well, how many? I mean, you can imagine how many people she has that just like, oh, I'm not putting those 12 beers down.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even an option. You do one of two things. You lie or you quit. But you don't give your nutritionist the truth
Look,
about
I'm
what
doing
you've actually
everything
been
you
eating.
say.
Yeah, and it's not working. Nutrition just isn't for me.
She's like, let's just start a new week. And I was like, all right, deal. We'll go from there.
And speaking of binge eating, we have with us Nugget Johnson.
Oh,
Is that my intro?
Who was
the
famous,
best
who's
segue.
made the name. The name Nugget comes from beating a 350-pound man in a chicken nugget eating competition. Is that correct?
Yeah. We were sober when we were doing that. And
The
we were
story
watching-
already doesn't sound believable.
we were watching MTV. It was a Monday night. And I got the idea. I was like, man, I could eat more than you. We somehow got on that subject. And So he gave us the money. Me and I was his intern, and me and one of the other interns went to Wendy's because at the time Wendy's was doing $5 for $1. Okay. McDonald's was doing $4 for $1. We were like, oh, we're saving money. So we went and got
economic.
Yeah. And I thought that I could eat so many. We got 200 chicken nuggets because we were all being pretty cocky about it. And we bring it back, and he ate 39, I ate 42. But that is nothing until you add in we each had a large chocolate Frosty before we even started. So the dairy alone makes you full.
Right. That was like the buy-in.
Yeah.
The large chocolate Frosty.
All right, we're going to start with this.
What kind of money was involved? What kind of money changed hands on that?
There was no money, yeah, which is the best kind
and
of
a lifelong nickname. So I'd say that's a pretty good win.
Well, for you, it works out very well because like the 350-pound guy's like, hey, I beat this guy eating nuggets, and everybody's like, oh yeah, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
but like it's like you, I beat a 350-pound man.
Yeah,
like wow. Okay.
Do you think that's the equivalent of like losing a fight? I would.
Yeah. I would have if that would have happened. I would have beat myself up about it. If I would have lost, I would have beat myself. Probably, I wouldn't even be sitting here. I would probably be in jail. And probably just not. You know what I mean? Like I would have just given up on life. Like, oh, I can't beat 350-pound guys and chicken nugget eating contest. What am I even doing here? You know?
There's no sense in even existing. I did that. I lost a chicken wing eating contest at the Ronald McDonald Wing Fest downtown.
Oh,
and I still beat myself up over it. For one, because the guy that beat me was a dick. I tried to talk with him, and he carried himself with this air like, man, why would I talk to you? I just beat you in a
Did he take it too seriously?
Yeah, like, I mean, that was his thing. And then Corey Adams told me later that he got beat by the same guy in another eating competition. So apparently, this guy
was like a professional eater.
He's probably sponsored by like some hot sauce company or something.
Well, you need to practice more.
Well, I'm an endurance eater. I'm not a sprinter. Like I need food over time.
You could eat more chicken wings in 24 hours than anybody else in the whole world.
Right. Give me a sundae and a couch and some rollover food.
I'd be interested to know the number of chicken wings you could eat in 24 hours.
Was y'all's a timed event, or was it just based on
It wasn't timed,
quantity?
but we did it like it was timed. So there were no breaks, and there was no, it was just.
It was just going until you tapped out.
It's just like whoever taps out first.
Yeah.
We're
like a true competitor. The guy's a true competitor.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Nugget Johnson. We have the Reverend Vaughn Rawls.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing fantastic.
It's good to see you.
Halloween is here, and I'm continuing my candy corn eating.
Are you continuing to disappoint Murphy
I am.
and hiding the candy from
My
her?
wife, Holly, texted me earlier today and said, did you eat all the candy corn? And I was like, no.
No, definitely not.
I don't know, maybe. No, I didn't do it.
Wasn't me.
Has the podcast for Inferno released yet?
It did. It launched this week, today, officially today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. Like it's producing a podcast is not an easy thing to do when you get into like editing and cutting out ums and all these things, and then we have this music we want to put in the intro, and then all that stuff. That's
you got a whole new appreciation for what Beefcake does.
That's
for
right.
us.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you cut out all the ums?
I try to.
Yeah,
I mean,
that seems so tedious because that's most of our language.
Well, so
it's
his
very
is more of a professional podcast, like a business podcast.
Oh, one of those
thing.
podcasts people take seriously. Okay.
Well, I mean,
to some extent,
but then there was this one in particular I was trying to edit because we recorded 6 of them, and I'm trying to go through all of them, and like this one guy was just like, before he said anything, was like, yeah, okay. And he would say that before he said anything. Like you ask him, yeah, okay, this is how it works. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it was like over, and I was like, okay, I can't let this slide. I'm just gonna go cut them out. But then I learned to like do the zoom in on. I'm using Audacity to edit.
Yeah.
And I learned to like zoom in on it where I could blow it up to where I could just cut out that. Oh yeah, okay.
You mean every time?
I try to.
Well, there's a feature on there that will learn this that will learn your ums or will learn your oh yeah and and it'll go through and it'll highlight and delete all of those patterns.
Audacity will do that?
I think it's on Audacity. I think that's where I learned about it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've never done it on Logic. I've never by the time we got to using Logic,
We were doing way better.
we were all already doing way better. However,
We're like semi-pro now.
I am still saying "and so" before I say everything else. Like,
Have y'all seen How I Met Your Mother? Have you seen that episode where Robin's on TV and when she's interviewing people, she says and it's the college kids make it a drinking game because she says it's and
No,
Yeah,
I haven't seen
anyway.
that.
I haven't seen
But I
that
think
one.
everybody has something, right?
Oh, yeah.
You either do the ums or the, or everybody has something, and you just got to embrace it sometimes, Just let it
That's
out
what
there.
it makes you appreciate the people who are very well spoken. Like you watch some politicians. And
Oh,
things like
yeah,
that,
for
and
sure.
you're like, wow,
For sure. But then you graduate from being like nervous and being like, to like pretending like it's on purpose. Like, so
Yeah, just a long pause.
right? Like so, or you just do another thing, and then I guess the top level is the professional person like you, where you're like,
I'm not a good.
you're just
example.
like you just talk properly all the time.
Do you
Well,
feel like I'm talking properly?
Well, so
definitely are.
far, yeah.
You're very
You
well spoken.
yeah.
Yeah, you're well spoken. I mean,
That's just because I'm doing it.
There's a reason
'cause
why
I'm
you
here.
have your own radio show every morning.
Yeah, but that's
it's not
not-
because you suck at talking.
I'm named after a dollar menu item. Like it's not. The presentation doesn't have to be. No one's expecting that.
fair
You know
enough,
that
fair
Nugget
enough.
guy says,
and
quite a
we're
bit.
not saying that we're giving a political speech, but we're
Right.
all comfortable enough having. It's more of friends sitting around talking, and so you don't have the ums and the ands and the so's and you knows.
Yeah, I think
because
you
it's
get
more
caught
of a
up-
comfort.
yeah.
you get very nervous when you're the one being interviewed sometimes and that kind of thing. But we're all just kind of comfortable in talking, and so you lose. I think we've all lost that over time of just being
Just
used
being
to.
comfortable,
that's
getting
true.
used to it.
You know,
That's
because
true.
this is just the four of us plus another friend hanging out on a Monday night. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's true.
And so, well, speaking of well-spoken and perfect people, we have Big Thirsty Brian Swanson, the best-looking cameraman in the business, who none of y'all get to see because he's behind the camera, and that's so sad.
It is sad.
But you're so good at working the camera. We can't
appreciate
change
it.
that.
I appreciate it.
We can't just bring it. You can't
This
just
is the
find another
sacrifice.
cameraman.
I don't know if I'm making the sacrifice or if the people are making the sacrifice.
It's really the people that lose out
but,
more than anything
But
else.
the show is better for it. That's
I
really
agree.
all that matters.
And it's all about the show.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a team player. We got a lot of team players. I want to tell you about my team player over here, Jack the Tan, and what we did this weekend. We had date night starting at about 7 a.m. because she had to work. We were going to have date night Saturday night,
I think that's technically date morning. just so
and
we're clear.
but it was named date night, and then she had to work at night, so we had it in the morning, so it was still date night.
It's the name of the event is date night.
The name of the
Yeah.
event is date
There
night.
we
Set
go.
up on Facebook as date night. That was it, and so we watched Making a Murderer Part 2.
Wait a
Okay.
minute. You set up a Facebook event just for the two of you?
No, if it was a Facebook event, it would have been.
I was
named
like, wow,
that.
that's pretty.
Did you not get that? We invited everybody. Did you not get it? We specifically did not invite you.
I would believe.
This is how they initiate coitus as well, as sending each other a Facebook event
Wow.
request.
Oh, that's gonna get deleted.
My point is, we watched Making a Murderer too. Have y'all seen Making a Murderer?
I watched first couple of episodes and didn't get back into it.
It's good. I like it, and we're gonna finish the second part.
Carol loved all of that crime drama documentary stuff. She would watch all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Just as soon as it came out, she would binge watch all of it. So
I
I
love
never
it.
got into it.
And we still got a lot more to watch.
I always got nervous whenever she was watching Snapped marathons. It's time to go to the jewelry store, buy her something nice, you know.
Well, Amanda talks a lot about the fact that she could get away with killing me. With her knowledge and
pharmacy?
what she would
I mean,
inject me with and where
one
she would
day you
inject
just
me, and I'm
don't
like,
wake up.
They'd never find the needle mark. They would never be able to
Yeah.
detect the medicine.
Would you do?
or-
You'd do a pig farm, obviously, right? Because we're out here.
yeah, because they
Yeah.
eat all the bone and everything.
why don't you just shoot me up with Dilaudid and we'll just all say
Hey,
call
when
it
she-
call it an
it
OD?
was fair.
When she starts ordering pigs, then you should worry.
Why are there so many pigs coming to the house?
Manny's gonna cook me a lot of bacon this weekend.
Oh boy.
So I have a couple requests for Nugget.
I didn't know when a good time
Yeah,
would be.
I
I was
didn't
just going
either.
to yell out people's names.
So
I'm supposed to say hi to Charlotte. So hi Charlotte. You're awesome.
Oh, hey, Charlotte. I bet that's Melissa's daughter,
it
Charlotte.
is Charlotte.
It might be.
is. And then Bethany wants to hear you say "Oh man" in your nuggety voice.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, you have a voice?
I'm sure it'll just happen. I think I know what that might be referring to. But it's not gonna. I can't just. I'm not your monkey, Bethany. I'm not just. Gonna do it on
Do your
command.
Nugget voice. Do the
People
Nugget.
just commenting.
I want
requests.
anything I do to be referred to as nuggety. Just once.
That's
Thirsty
a
was
valid
over here
statement.
acting all nuggety and stuff.
Nuggety.
He was awfully nuggety tonight.
So you guys are recovered from Big Hill Pond.
Yeah.
You guys are getting back on track with nutrition and everything after
Yeah.
taking a recovery week
Yep.
because of Big Hill Pond as
That's
well.
right.
How
I
are you
went to
doing?
the gym 3 days last week.
He did.
Awesome.
Yep.
I did
once this
not.
week. So I'm kind of back into it. I'm on day 2 again of fasting. My keto's been pretty good, but I had to get back into it because I do so much carb eating during the race, which means carb eating after, which means carb eating the day after.
Did we spend any time last week talking about how you felt on keto at Big Hill Pond? Like, I feel like your race experiences are getting better and better as far as how you
I do
feel
too.
throughout the race.
Yeah, I'm almost afraid to talk about it.
Well, I don't want to
because-
jinx you, but
Yeah, I felt really good, but I don't know
Good.
that I want to attribute that to anything yet.
fair enough.
I hate standing behind anything like that.
Nobody's gonna like put like a endorsed by Beefcake seal on any
you're
diet
not going to
plan
want me
or
to be a
anything.
keto spokesperson or anything. Like nutritionists everywhere. Like Kate Lyman is already sending me
Lyman's-
contracts in the mail
Exactly.
because she wants me to be her person.
She's
Yeah.
ready.
I feel good. I've been feeling really good.
That's good.
So
How long have you
it-
been doing it?
I've actually been doing keto for probably 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
But while eating really crappy keto. So I've been in ketosis, but not really eating very good food.
So like just making fat bombs out of jalapeno
yeah,
poppers.
yeah, tons of peanut
So
butter,
still lots of
pepperoni,
calories.
processed, salami and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But just if you were to say we're going to need you to have, a heart attack within the next couple of weeks, what would you go to the store and get and still be in ketosis? That's what I've been.
It's kind of like
eating.
when the Atkins diet came out.
That's it.
You're just eating bacon all day long.
Or those
whatever.
bars
Yeah,
that are
the
just
bars.
like the caramel chocolate. You're like,
Hey
oh,
man, there's no calories.
there's like
no
5
carbs.
points in these.
It says I'm good.
I would eat those bags when I did it years ago.
The
Like,
stick's still
they made
turning
these
red.
Candies that were like, they had different ones. They had peppermint and they had like almond and chocolate, but they had no carbs. You just eat the whole bag and you had to poop for like 3 days because it's like all that nonsense.
You're like 1 gram of net carbs. This is amazing.
Well, it's been a process because I'm just such an overeater by nature that getting on keto has helped wean me off the pizza problem that I have. In all seriousness, it's kind of gotten me to a point, and then it's like, all right, now we're here. Now it's time to kind of dial it in. So now I've started doing the intermittent fasting and
With keto?
with keto.
Okay.
And things are slowly, I want to say heading in the right direction, but I can throw that off by tomorrow morning.
But you feel like you have less cravings as far as,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
do.
easier to manage because you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat outside this window, so
Yes.
that helps a lot, I'm sure.
And I think that the keto part, you say the cravings, I think that the keto part really helps with the ability to not stay hungry for longer periods of time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do
I
believe
did it
that.
for a little bit, and then I don't know. I think that a lot of people that lift and work out and are doing CrossFit and things like that are trying to do the keto thing. Like, I have a lot more respect for those people than the people that are not working out and trying to do it, because I would imagine you would just
Be hungry all the time.
or just not feel like you have any energy for the
Yeah,
workout.
It's
with
more
no
the
carbs.
fatigue.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more the I can get excited for the first 30 seconds of a workout and be like, ooh, I feel the whole keto thing. Like, you can feel that fatigue, just that,
It comes a little faster.
and you just gotta. But
Yeah,
I
because
can
once you
slow
get
down
once you
and
get
pace
into
out.
high intensity, your body is going to go back to burning glycogen, and it's going to forget that you're in ketosis, and you'll have limited glycogen in your body because you're in ketosis. So
Wait a minute, you're getting too sciencey over there.
So there's whatever. It
Nugget's
seems to
like,
be.
wait, what just happened?
No, this is good.
Okay. It's fun. I enjoyed it. You know what else I enjoy is reviews. And we have a couple of those. Hopefully Melissa's still watching because she left us a review.
She did.
Nugget's
My
going to
phone
leave us a
died.
review
She's
later. I bet you know how to use iTunes, don't you?
Yes.
You know how to leave a review?
Yeah, and I tried to leave a review for myself on my podcast,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't. It still
Did it
hasn't
say
shown
you
up.
already
Really?
reviewed it? That's what it does for me when I try to
It
do
showed
ours.
mine.
Did
It
it?
used to be on there. That was a long time ago. And it was a raving review.
I left one too.
Okay.
It was outstanding.
I don't know if it's still on there or not.
I left
Okay.
one for Charlie when she was on the episode.
Yeah.
Seth did not.
Really?
He
I
is
was
not.
thinking about doing a thing where I just go on social media and I say, hey, if you leave me a review, screenshot it, and then send it to me after the review's been posted, sign your name at the bottom of the review, and I'll give everybody who does it $1.
That's really a pretty good
that's
idea.
good.
I mean, I would do that.
You'd spend more than that on advertising.
You would,
like putting
right.
that out there. What
smart.
Vaughn actually recorded a screen recording of this is how you do it, step for step.
Good.
And I mean, we're shameless. We're shameless in the approach. I'm going to read you. First, I'm going to read you Melissa's
she's still here,
review.
by the way.
LHRL 5 stars. Melissa Burgess. I love listening to this podcast. This is the one and only podcast I listen to regularly and recommend to my friends. There are a few places you can go to learn, be supported, and laugh. This is a must listen. Isn't she awesome?
She is awesome. She's was a guest recently. She's so awesome.
Yeah.
I've got another one here, and I want y'all to tell me who it is because I can't ever figure it out through these names.
Okay.
Like, I'm not really good at mysteries, whodunits.
Now that's going to be everybody's thing that leaves a review is trying to make it,
Have, like,
ambiguous enough.
Mysterious
that,
names.
Awesome people, 5 stars. G Manly T. Who is G Manly T?
GT. I don't know.
That's good. Read the review.
Thoroughly enjoy the podcast every week. I love how you guys take fitness and the fitness community and make everyone feel like they belong. Your Facebook community is the best on the internet. Because of you guys, and I try to be as inspiring to others in their fitness journey as you guys and the people of the LHRL community have been to me. Keep up the great work. That's a fantastic review.
It is a good review.
That's an outstanding review. You know, we were talking earlier this week about the momentum that Lift Heavy Run Long and the community seems to have and how like loyal and devoted the people in the community are. And, you know, I made the statement, isn't it something that who knew that just being all inclusive and encouraging could attract so many people?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like, that's all it's been. You know, I remember when I signed on to LHRL and I opened the community up to more people and catching a little bit of flack from that because it was sort of like a niche crew. And in hindsight, I sure am glad that we kept it
for
like
sure.
that.
I saw Rob Connor, a guest that from a few weeks ago, sent me a text yesterday, and he said, I keep running into people that saw me on the podcast. You guys are like famous.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
And I was like, that's awesome.
Especially from Rob, who's such a legit dude.
He's
That
like,
would
he
be
said he keeps going out to places and he's been recognized like 4 or 5 times.
nice.
That review is from North Mississippi Endurance team member Gavin May.
Ah, Gavin, who will be on here.
G-Man
Sure. Have you
T.
talked to him about being on the
I
podcast?
made a comment on Facebook about it, but
He's watching, so he knows he needs
Well, it's not up to him. Nobody needs to talk to him.
super
I was just
nice
wondering if you
dude.
told him he was going to be on the podcast because he is. We just have to
I told him we just got to work it out.
get our scheduling. That's great. What a good thing. What an opportunity. This is the best opportunity to meet all kinds
It
of people.
really is.
I mean, how do you don't, not every day that a guy named Nugget walks into your studio and you just get to sit down and ask him questions.
I almost turned around because when I don't know if you knew this or not because you've been out here, so this might not be the perspective you get, but it's when you're driving up, it's like
It's sketchy
a
as
movie.
hell.
It's like it's a
A
very
horror
2018 movie about somebody who goes to do a podcast and they gets murdered.
That-
Because when you drive, it's that dirt road and the only light source is your headlights, and you feel like you're.
That's why whenever we have a female guest, she always brings somebody with her.
Always.
They never come alone.
They don't, do they?
Always.
Because you're driving up and you're just like, and then I think you text me and you said it's the big steel red building next to the log cabin,
Like,
and I
these
was
guys
like,
are gonna lock me in a
I'm
cage
gonna
and
die.
hide me under the.
I'm gonna
You're
die.
expected to walk in and see like chainsaws hanging from
Yeah.
the roof.
I was like,
rafters,
somebody's gonna wear my skin. They're gonna walk around the city.
It's perfect for Halloween.
And then you come in, it's not out there anymore, but it used to be just loads of fertilizer. It looked like I was making bombs up in here. And it's definitely shady at best. Walk into a door and another door where it gets darker.
That's
and then
the
another
other thing
door.
is there's so many doors, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like Saw.
Yeah.
Put your hand in that acid to get the key.
Well, you have a podcast of your own.
Yeah, and it's bad because this one's really well done and well put together. And so
Oh,
I don't
man.
even.
Thank you.
I feel bad talking about mine. So mine is in a work in progress.
Okay.
It's called the Get Your Life Together podcast.
Uh huh.
What it is mainly, and there's some little side things that I do, but mainly it's me talking to people who are professionals in their careers about the ins and outs, how it affects their social life, dating life, their sleep schedule, all that stuff. That way, if you're in high school or college or you're just trying to figure out what to do, you can listen to these and get a better idea and go, oh, I do want to do that job. Or, I mean, how many people have you met where they go to school and they spend all this time and money investing in school to do a job, and then they get into the job and they're like, oh, I hate this. I'm going to go serve tables now, and all that was for nothing. It's to help those people avoid that.
Yeah, I don't know many people that actually use their degree short of doctors.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
right.
so-
I mean, I don't use mine.
Field.
So
I got a communications degree, and I still don't use mine. That's my job. But I didn't learn anything. I
Right.
mean, what a horrible, horrible degree to get. Unless you're getting one, and then it's great.
It's great. Don't change your mind.
Stay in college, kids.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Purdue.
Since you're endorsing your
Wow.
I need to air high
Yeah,
five
but
you
it still
really quick.
sucked. Like I didn't learn anything. People say that.
No,
Yeah.
no.
People are like, oh,
I'm
yeah,
just-
Purdue.
I'm just grateful because Purdue took down Ohio State, so Notre Dame's number 3 now.
And
in
I'm
the
from
nation,
Michigan,
so-
and so that was a big victory for me on two fronts.
Oh.
Because Ohio State, you guys suck. But yeah, I went there and I was doing radio jobs to pay for school. So I would do radio full time, and then I would go to school part time and pay for it with my income. And I finally finished. It took like 7 years. It took so long and so many transfers of different schools that I had to figure out. And then when I was done, I was just like, man, they were all teaching me stuff to get jobs in the industry I was already working in.
Well, I was going to ask, like, so, we know, or I know, people that, like, they become, like, a CrossFit coach, and so then they end up going to college to getting, like, an exercise science degree or whatever because it helps them be a better coach and, that kind of a thing. But you're saying that's not the case.
I mean, that
in
makes
your
sense
situation.
for that because you can learn things. But I didn't. They would. My experience with a lot of the teachers they were people that were in the industry at one time or that wanted to get into the industry, and they're teaching people how to make it. And they would give me advice that I would learn at my job in the industry was the opposite of what you're supposed to do. So, for example, they made a really big deal out of. They were like, "Hey, when you are talking on broadcast, you need to say W and pronounce the double don't say W like most people do that are normal people in society." So I would make it a huge point to do that. And my boss one day was like, why are you saying that so weird? No
making
one
us all uncomfortable.
talks like that.
Because I paid $50,000 for
WNBC.
somebody to tell me to do that.
Yeah. And that was the trend that I got a lot of. And so when I came out of it, I was happy that I got it done and all that stuff, and it made my parents really happy. They were pumped about it, and so that's good enough for me. But if I had to do it over again, I would not have paid so much money for it.
Yeah.
Well, it was very similar in the IT world, and back in late '90s, early 2000s.
Even more recently than that.
I don't know how it is now.
It's a lot better now, but
you would be school curriculum is like way behind.
it's like 15 to 20 years
15 to
behind,
20
which is a lifetime in the IT world. Like as far
Yeah.
as methodologies go, programming languages go, everything, they were so far
Right.
behind. It's
I
crazy.
could go through classes where they're teaching me basic programming, which is like way old, and I'm like working a job doing like web development, which is like 20 years ahead of what they're teaching you in school. So it's kind of the same.
Did you ever
thing,
question them like, hey, why aren't you teaching us stuff that we need to know?
It just didn't work that way.
So I'm actually
You know, like-
on like an advisory board for Southwest Tennessee Community College, where they bring in professionals to actually have those conversations with.
And that's where I was going to school. And I remember the first web development class we got at Southwest, And I was like already like, I loved it because I was already doing this stuff at work. And I was like, yep, raise my hand, answer that question. You know, I was like, you're already like 3 versions behind what I'm working on at work. You know, even the current curriculum, you know.
They're working on making it better, but it's
I
definitely
protested by not going to class. It was my way of telling them, like, what you're trying to teach me, I'm not going to learn. And I think it got through to them.
Yeah.
And 12 years later, I
in
got my degree
the 12 years that
I still don't use.
Yeah, I
any
heard
of it.
state almost shut down because of the protests.
They did. You know, state told me that I had basically learned everything that they could offer me.
Yeah.
we don't think we can help you anymore.
We think you've absorbed everything that we think you're going to absorb, most of it being natural
alcohol
light in a can. So you need to go and
Here's your
spend
degree.
the next
Please go
decade
home.
at University of Memphis doing something that you will never use in your life. And so that's what I did. After leaving the best landscape school in the country and not doing anything pertaining to landscape, I come home and open a landscape company because I like to make sense of things.
Good times.
How does fitness play into your life? I didn't even ask you where, if, how much you.
Oh, is that
out.
what this podcast is about?
It is sometimes, but not really. Don't take that as like we need to shift into talking about fitness.
It's more about funny and having a good time.
I really want to talk more about your podcast than I do anything else. But
Well, whatever you want. I'm not gonna be mad if we just.
You work out.
Yeah, but I do. I try to go 5 times a week because I don't have a lot of responsibilities. So I have tons of free time, and that's. I don't know if you're like this, especially when you do have the time to go. Do you feel weird on the days? If you take too long of a break, do you start to feel weird?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you're like,
Yeah.
I didn't go to the gym. I had no reason not to go to the gym.
I'm like 3 months into that break.
Yeah. Starting to feel a little weird about it.
I'm starting to feel a little weird.
But it's I started doing it. One of my buddies, I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and there's not a lot to do in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So one of my buddies started working out with me, and he really got me into it. I think after anybody lifts for about 30 days, I think it's really hard to stop. I think
So
you're
are you
hooked.
going to like one of the big like Globo type gyms and just using their weights? And
I'm
that
going
kind of
to
stuff?
right now. I go to Lifetime in
Okay,
Collierville, which
fair
is national franchise, and then I also go to. I have a membership at just about every gym in the city. What I do is I DJ on the side, and so I'll DJ these gyms member appreciation days in exchange
nice.
for like a free membership.
Oh,
so I
that's
can
cool.
Really?
that way, especially if I want to bring a guest, because I like working out with somebody.
You
It
can go
makes it
wherever's
easier.
convenient for them too, and that kind
Right.
of thing. Yeah.
So I'll do that five times a day or so. I've experimented with CrossFit, and I like CrossFit a lot.
You don't have to say that being on this podcast.
I didn't know if that was. Is everybody on the podcast? Is that pretty much your bread and butter?
Well,
No.
bread and butter is not the right
I don't
word.
know that
I
we
mean,
have a bread and butter.
That is our
That's
exercise.
the way we work out.
CrossFit and running is our
yeah.
exercise of choice.
We do a lot of CrossFit. Our guests don't necessarily do any CrossFit. They're
Yeah,
usually into something, whether it be running or lifting or CrossFit. But this podcast is not about CrossFit.
It's
It doesn't
about fitness.
It's about whatever the hell we want it to be on that episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I mean, we'll bring people who are avid CrossFitters, and we'll forget to talk about CrossFit because we get sidetracked. And I think our listeners are well, if they do listen, they're well aware of that fact.
we like hearing stories and we like telling stories.
Correct.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter
Whether
what
that's
they're
fitness
about.
related
Yeah.
or not, like good stories.
All right. Well, let me see if the story comes out of this. I did CrossFit for a little while, and I really liked the Olympic lifts, and that's what I loved about it. What I didn't like about CrossFit was there would be times where you'd go in and you'd do your WOD, your workout of the day. I didn't know what that was for a really long time. No one told me. They were just like, everybody knows. Come on in. I liked that. It was just I could do a WOD, and the next day in the mirror, I felt like I looked better. I felt like I actually lost weight just doing
Did
Olympic
they hand
lifts.
you Kool-Aid while you were there?
But I didn't like. You would come in some days and you'd hit legs really hard because you're doing a clean or something like that. And then the next day you would also hit legs, and I'm just like, well, I don't want to do that. So what I ended up doing was taking some of those lifts and incorporating them into my pretty basic split. And so what I do now is lift, and I'll throw in some cleans and some things like that. But yeah, I try to always work out with a partner, and I do some really basic stuff, man. I don't do a lot of fun interesting things. But I'm really consistent, and I have nothing but free time. So I'll do 2-a-days once a week. And on those days, I'll eat whatever I want because I feel like I can justify it, but it ends up making me fat. Do you have that experience where you're like, oh, I earned it?
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I got out
stay
of bed.
fat.
I earned this.
And
pizza.
not the 2-a-days. The part where I say I can eat wherever I want. That usually comes in about noon every day. I can eat whatever I want because of something I'm probably not going to do.
Do you train anybody?
No way.
Do you work out with anybody where you're like kind of bringing them up as their mentor or anything
No.
like that, or have you in the past?
No.
That's what I did. I just I don't call myself a trainer or anything, but I can give somebody a workout routine, and I gave one of my buddies, Andrew. He does the weather, or he did the weather for Channel 5 in Memphis. He moved now, but part of being on TV is you gotta look not gross. So he started working out with me, and I saw him go from. He was on bench. He couldn't do the bar. I mean, he was really. I hope he's watching. He was just really weak. He was a weak man.
Look into Andrew's eyes.
And he
He's pathetic.
I don't know how anybody. I don't know how his wife even married him. So, but he couldn't lift the bar, and he was having a really hard time, and he just couldn't stabilize anything. And I watched him go from that to his body type. He lifts more than me on just about everything now,
wow.
except for legs, because he's still learning. He's still in that phase.
Well, he doesn't need those on TV.
Right. He's still in that
He just
phase
needs
of like
everything
legs
on
aren't
TV.
important.
Skips leg day every week.
Yeah. But that's been the most. That's what keeps me going. It keeps me into it. Is watching somebody else do really well when they're working out with me consistently.
That's totally my favorite part of Lift Heavy Run Long. I mean, that is it. I love hearing stories about that. I love watching people do that, and I love like being able to share and part of that.
And
So you're doing it on a large scale.
Our community is good about that. Like, we don't have to show up at the gym and work out with those people. We see those conversations happening, like people posting their workouts and congratulating each other and that kind of stuff. So it's good from that perspective.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to get across that that's what we are. You know, the name kind of implies that there are, like, that you're required to run a certain different distance and lift a certain amount of weight.
Yeah, like heavy and long.
Correct. Yeah.
But the terms are relative.
Absolutely.
I get it.
And so coming into it, I couldn't do any of that stuff. I couldn't go from, I come from a background of addiction and came into CrossFit just light post to light post, 3-pack cigarettes a day. I mean, I was miserable. I was fat. I couldn't do anything. Literally tipped over like a cow that was shoved in the middle of the night on my warm up of my first CrossFit workout. Came into Olive Branch CrossFit. The warm up was to lunge one length of the building, 50 meters, whatever that is, sprint back, lunge, sprint back. And I got through with my second set of lunges, started to sprint, and just did like the 6 or 7 step, running towards the wall, and just fell over and was, in tears. I didn't just break down and cry, but I thought, this is awful. Like, and all those people there were like, hell yeah. Like, we're going to do this and we're going to keep
Well,
doing
that's something. Now I just had a thought that's something that we're doing, like on a larger scale with Lift Heavy Run Long.
Yeah.
But you see it in a good CrossFit gym anywhere really, which is exactly what he just said. It doesn't matter what level you're on. You go in and you look at the other guy and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. That's pretty inspiring.
That helps when you have those people.
And there's
Yeah.
all the levels of that. You've got CrossFit Games competitors. You've got like the guy who just scores really good every day. And then you've got the guy who's just okay at it. And then you have people that are terrible, like their first experience, not terrible, but it's their first day and they don't know what's going on. And that person looks to the next level and goes, man, that's inspiring to me. And then that person looks up to the guy that's going to the games and he's like, man, I wish I could. That's really inspiring to me, but that's what we've got going on in this group. Like I see people post, they just ran like 240-mile race or something. Like, man, that'd be something to do. That's inspiring. And then there's people that can just ran their first 5K that look at the guy who just ran his first 10K and he's like, man, I wish I could do that.
Well, and what I had is what we see the community give to other people. I was in there with Laura Pinkley, Paul Pinkley, and Josh Sparwasser, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I could do that. And they're like, not only are you going to do that, we're going to do that.
Right.
Like all of
Right.
us together, we're going to right this ship, and we're going to do that. And when you have that, it's like you kind of feel like you owe somebody something, and you got people behind you, and it's not like competition, amongst each other. But I mean, it just meant so much, and I don't think I could ever. You can't really you can't really relay that information properly to somebody unless they've experienced it. But I know what people are talking about when they say, because of so-and-so, I did so-and-so, or I watched y'all do so-and-so, so I did so-and-so. And I don't take that lightly. And having this to foster that it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to be a part of.
That makes sense, because that's why I get such an enjoyment out of showing somebody else, like, hey, here's a workout. You can stick to this and do this, and you don't, after a certain amount of time, you don't even need me to do it with you. You can do it on your own, because that's what my buddy did for me, and he just did it because he saw me. I was real sad for some reason before I started working out, because I didn't have any hobbies. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have any hobbies, you're just a horrible person.
So, you really can be.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
It's just like you got to distract yourself with something, or else you just get involved in a bunch of mess. So I was really depressed a lot, and I think he saw that, and he's like, "Dude, just come to the gym with me, and you'll be fine." And that, I don't think I've been sad since then. That was like 10 years ago. I think I was maybe sad. I think like 2009
just come to the
for a
gym
little
with
while.
me and you'll be fine.
There was a time in 2009 I got sad.
In 2009, there was a show that I wanted to watch, and then like there was like a weather guy who cut in instead of the show, and I think that's what I was sad. I think that's what did it.
You got preempted by some weather event,
Yeah.
hurricane or
Was
something.
it your buddy Andrew?
If only, and then
That's
that
why
would be real full circle. Then I'd be completely justified in calling him weak on the podcast.
So I feel like we got off track earlier. You talking about the podcast because we were talking about the communication degree and like you interviewing people about like whether they like their career or not.
Whether they like their career. So I talked to the big one is, and this is what I hear from a lot of people. I talked to a nurse who was still in college. I think she's doing a residency. She is talking about how it affected her dating life. I mean, she met this guy who pretty much moved in with her almost immediately. And if she wouldn't have met him and fallen, like pretty much they fell for each other so fast. And he was just like, hey, we're both really busy. I'm just going to have to kind of stay here all the time. And she makes it a point to say if she wouldn't have met somebody that was down to do that, she wouldn't be able to be with anybody because the schedule is just so demanding. And when you're not working, you're studying. And if you can't find somebody like that, or if you don't know somebody from before you started that crazy schedule, it's almost not going to happen. And so that's something that people need to know. Like, hey, if a relationship is important to you, this might not be the best path. And without somebody telling you that, you would have no way of knowing. You'd be like, oh, I'll be fine. I'm a nurse. Nurses are attractive. Like, people are into nurses, guys or girls. So
Nurses make a lot of money.
yeah,
Why?
so stuff like that is important to hear. And then I also try to make it, so it's called the Get Your Life Together podcast, and I try to make that all-encompassing. And so I'll have fitness people talk about, just general health and diet stuff. It is kind of an all-purpose type of thing.
Well, and it serves the same purpose that we're serving here. I mean, you have an opportunity to get in front of people and encourage people and have people come back to you and say, man, I listened to your podcast, and because of that, this happened.
Yeah.
And those connections are what keeps it fun.
I was going to dedicate my life to playing the recorder professionally. And then I heard your podcast with that
the
professional
suicidal
recorder
recorder
player,
guy
and it
who
turns
hated
out they
it.
don't make a lot of money at all. Yeah. And
How
so
many episodes have you recorded?
I've done like 7 shitty ones, and then maybe 3 where the audio quality is something I'm okay with. For the first,
We've got a lot more than 7 shitties.
So we need to send him the article you wrote about, like, you just got to start somewhere, and,
Yeah.
and
you
put it
do,
out
and
there.
it's okay to have bad ones, and,
Yeah.
and I'm getting those out of the
important
way
part of
right
the
now.
process.
It's mandatory to have bad ones.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of people who start
you don't want-
podcasts or anything are like, oh, no, it has to be perfect.
Yeah,
and
you don't want to
you'll
win
never
around.
do it.
Exactly.
You'll never do it. So, I just started. I got some really bad audio issues and a lot of them, but there's this one that's really good. He's a local chef, and he's really open about his addiction with cocaine and how he kept relapsing and how he finally beat it, and he's been clean for I think 5 years now, and he just has a food truck and things. It's awesome because you get to talk to him in the middle of this huge life event where everything's finally turning around for him. And so it's going to be great because in a year or so I'll be able to interview him again and go, okay, where are things now? And he works. I mean, he's gonna be really well off. He's gonna be really successful, but he's so open about his addiction that it's just like, man, where else can you where else can you hear that type of thing? It's just like that information wasn't available to me when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, like, my uncle was going to come clean when he was wasted or something.
Everybody's got that uncle.
But now you have it, and it's people talk about how dangerous it is with all the social media and stuff, and everybody gets their opinion out there, and how some people's opinions maybe don't need to be heard that much. But there's also a huge value to it because now we all have access to all this awesome stuff.
Well, that's what I like about podcasting is because you can have conversations. Like, social media is one thing. Like, my mom can post something that Donald Trump said on Facebook, and it may or may not be true. You know, who knows? But in a conversation like this, Brian can jump in and go, hey, man, that, you know.
Do you do that? Do you look stuff up sometimes?
Oh, he's the dream
And
crusher.
fact check people?
You know, or like if
He'll kill you. You can't. Don't be spewing any things that aren't completely factual, or else he'll pin you down.
Ketogenic diets make you taller.
right, wait.
It's true. I was this tall, and then I started doing it. Made me taller. It's great.
Right.
I got out of debt because of it. My parents started telling me they love me more often.
All I had
We'll
to
solve
do
everything.
was quit eating mashed potatoes.
That's right. That was it. And then it all came together.
My other nickname is Dream Crusher because I like to squash what people are trying to say.
He has a knack for finding the different angle that, you know, maybe not.
But that's what's great. But that's what I'm saying. That's what's great about the whole genre of podcasting or whatever it is. You know, like you can have those back and forth, and we're going to be we talk for an hour. On Facebook or social media, it's just like 140 characters. You can say whatever you want.
Right.
And nobody's going to hold you accountable at all. Like if I say something completely ridiculous, Amanda's going to be like, I'm a doctor and that's not.
Oh, yeah, you are a doctor. Do you have to fact check these guys like all the time?
Well, we really don't get into that like smart of a conversation where we have to like check
Ouch.
out
Really?
facts or
Ouch.
anything.
We don't really
don't
ever
ever say
anything.
smart
No,
stuff.
I mean like.
No, these guys are too dumb for me to have to worry about it. Yeah.
I mean, like scientific stuff. I
Right.
mean, we really don't go down that road too often.
We really work hard to make sure that we don't position ourselves as experts in anything.
Y'all aren't stupid.
That's why I didn't want to talk too much about that keto thing, because I didn't want to give off the impression that I feel like I know something about
Okay.
anything ever.
Yeah, and
I don't ever want anybody to think that if there is something that needs to be known, that they should contact me about it.
Right.
Because if there's an emergency, if there's a need for knowledge, if there's any situation where I am the one to get us out of that situation, we're in a terrible situation.
Well, it's just so hard to make blanket statements because everybody's so different.
Yes.
It's so hard to say like, hey, you should do this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go to a bunch of different doctors and just go, hey, what do I eat? And they'll all give you different answers, and you're like, oh, this is miserable. How am I supposed to know? And you know what blanket statement I've started to feel a little bit comfortable with? This is perfect that you're here. I'm so glad.
If it's political, racial, or religious, we don't want to hear it.
Oh, that's all it was.
It was all of
those.
It was all of those. He was going to cover diet too as the fourth piece of it.
Racially, nutritionally
crap.
charged.
Well, there goes that. What I was going to say is I think it's a cool idea to have a diet where it's as minimal as possible and then test out different things and see how you react to them. And that's what I did.
Whole30.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Is that yeah?
So
or
Whole30
or
does that.
something. I mean, I know somebody who did a vegan diet and then slowly added back in eggs and saw how that went, and then added back in, tacos.
Right.
Went from eggs to tacos, and I just I like that idea as a concept. I don't know how. I don't know.
That's an awesome way to.
I feel like there's nothing wrong with that statement, right?
No, not at all. I think that's a great way to
Figure out how you
figure out
react
what
to
works
stuff.
for you.
So I'm going
yeah.
to cut back to nothing but chicken broth.
Yeah.
For like a month.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not that extreme.
Well, I like the concept, but if it was possible for me to only eat these things and then slowly introduce these things back in,
Yeah, it's the
I wouldn't have the
execution.
problem that I have in the first place.
Well, for
I mean,
example, you
if
do
I-
ketogenic diet. What if you just introduced different types of carbs in, and you just stuck to one different type of carb that you added in, and saw if having it from a different source, like if you have it from fructose versus some sort of complex carbohydrate, if that affected you differently.
Because he's like me in a way, which is I'm going to introduce carbs.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
is going to be a pizza.
Yeah.
Yes.
A whole
right.
pizza.
Right.
Got it. That's
Or-
fair.
And,
You know
and
what I mean?
even
Like,
if
there's not-
okay, it would be pretty much like saying, okay, I've been clean for 7 years, but we don't really know what I needed to get clean from, so we're gonna introduce cocaine,
Right.
and see how well that works.
Maybe cocaine wasn't really his trigger.
And if cocaine is or isn't the problem,
Right.
then
Then
the
you're
study's
clear.
squashed.
You're
So okay, I'll just maintain this coke habit for the next couple
Cocaine's
months.
good.
Now we're
All
gonna
right.
slide in a little bit of vodka. We're not sure it was the vodka. So you're just like you're playing Russian roulette
Yes.
until you jump off the cliff.
Right. And my thought when I said that was, I hope that we can make it about drugs somehow, because that'll make me sound like I have no idea what I'm talking about. That's great. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
In regards to your podcast, you had mentioned people commenting and having opinions about your opinions and things that you say. Is that something that you deal with? Being the host of a widespread morning show, you probably deal with a lot of. I mean, you got a lot of fans.
Oh, so you mean the
have a
radio
lot-
show? Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I'm whether it's the radio show or the podcast, you're going to have people who connect with you and have things to say about what you're doing.
Yes.
Is that something that affects you?
Oh man, it depends on how much I have to deal with their comments. So, for example, I was at Walgreens, and I was talking to my mom on the phone, and there was some woman standing next to me that heard me talking, and so I guess recognized my voice. And she was 5'0", and she must have been about 70 years old. She had gray hair. She could barely move, and she was a bigger lady, and she taps me on the shoulder, and she's like, "I need to talk to you right now." And I figure, somebody who maybe listens to the show or something. So I'm like, "Mom, I got to call you back." So I hang up with her, and she starts yelling at me. And she's like, "You're a horrible person. You are going to hell. I can't believe you. You son of a bitch." Like all these things. And it took me forever. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she finally told me. She's like, "You went on the air and said that you laugh at homeless people." I did not say that on the air. Let me put that out there. What I said
just
was...
said it.
It's on the podcast app. What I said was, if I see a homeless person, this is around Halloween, and I have all this leftover Halloween candy, I don't want to eat it. I will give a homeless person my Snickers. She heard I snicker at homeless people. That type of stuff. People mishear things
Sure.
all the time, and they will just...
Was there a class in your communications degree about how not to get political
No.
and religious or anything like that?
They do say to stay away from race, religion, and politics. But I don't do that because it's hilarious. So what I'll do is I won't make a stance on anything political, but I will yell out politicians' names in the middle of when we're talking and it has nothing to do with. So someone will call and they're like, "Yeah, I want tickets to the corn maze out there in Tipton County," and I'll say, "Elizabeth Warren." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Nancy Pelosi." And my
Just
co-host
lights their fire.
hates it. My co-host gets so mad because people could just hear those names and just go nuts.
You don't
Without
have to have
any
an opinion about
context.
it. You
Right.
just say it, and they get angry.
I
about
just yell. People will be like, "I think that we need more women police officers," because we'll be talking about something, and I'll be like, "Hillary Clinton," and people will write us stuff. They'll be like, "Your host, Nugget," like that's somebody you should take seriously on politics.
it. Nugget.
Was saying this about Hillary Clinton, and they will insert their own story, even though
It's all recorded, it turns out.
It's all
we can play the tape.
I've saved stuff before, and somebody made a status one time, and one of my friends tagged me in the comments, and the status was about how I said something ridiculous. So I got the audio, and I put it on there as a comment, like, "Hey, everybody, here's what I actually said. You can listen Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 9.
Perfect.
But people mishear things all the time because you're just listening to it passively.
Do you get reprimanded for things like that from the higher ups, or do they care?
Not in Memphis. I've had other jobs in other cities where it's more of a corporate. It's a private company here. We're owned by a doctor.
Hey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so we have a lot more leeway in certain areas than the corporations do. I mean, if you are one of the bigger companies and somebody complains and the wrong person hears it and they threaten to pull advertising, then it's not just one person who hears about that. It's an email thread with 30 people, and none of them know who you are, and none of them get it, and they just assume the worst. So you get into more hot water with that, which is why I'm glad I'm here. I could stay here forever. I never get in trouble.
That's what we were talking about, the podcast medium, why it's such a beautiful thing, because to do a podcast, it takes a microphone and a computer, and then you put it out there, and it's yours. And so we can talk about whatever we want to talk about, and there's no one to tell us not to talk about
until you get advertisers, right?
Which apparently we don't have to worry about that anytime soon.
No?
I'm thinking. We don't have any now, and now we have turned down, an advertiser, one in particular, because we felt like it wasn't worth what it would bring in to potentially be governed
Censored
by somebody else. I hate being told what to do. I hate being.
You do?
Even somebody like.
We would never guess that.
Oh man, it drives me crazy, and I can't even fathom the thought of somebody telling me like, "Here's what we want to pay you to say, and you need to say it then."
Oh, wow.
I hate the thought of like being.
Well, because then you'd be tied into that. You'd get used to that money, and then all of a sudden they're going to call you and say like, "Oh, we don't appreciate that you said that thing during the show where you played our advertisement."
There it goes. And next thing you know, you're working for the man, and I can't have.
Well, that's why we have the app.
That's
and
right.
Things like that. That's why we monetize in different ways other than
That's great.
advertising, So
I do get in trouble with endorsers a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, and they're not my endorse. So our demographic is women 18 to 34. So my co-host, who's a woman, gets a lot of the endorsements because women don't want to hear some guy telling about this great bra company. It turns out. So she'll get the endorsements.
Nugget said great things about this bra.
Yeah. Oh, man. I can't wait to hear Nugget's advice. So she'll do an endorsement, and I do my best to ruin it every time she talks. So she'll be on the air, and she'll say something about, she's like, oh, man, I can't tell you how great it is being at the weight loss center. And I'll go, hey, Liz is getting paid for this, just so you know right now. She's getting a lot of money to say this. She uses it, but just want to let you know she's getting paid. Sorry, Liz, what were you saying? And she gets so mad. She gets so mad. But it's worth it because it's funny for me.
You love your job.
Yeah. Oh, it's this, but almost full time because I don't work a full 8-hour day.
And you made that clear. Like you love your job because you don't have to work that often.
Yeah, even if I did. So I've worked up to this. I've worked hard in my life, I promise. When I first started in radio, it was 12 to 14 to 16-hour days every day, and you had multiple jobs. And then my first job full-time was Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then from there, I got lucky enough to go to New York City. And I was on the air out there. And once you're out there, it's very prestigious because you're talking to 5 million people. And so other people around the country just assume you're good, even if you're not.
Right.
I wasn't.
You're very honest about what it is that you do.
So I wasn't good, but I got jobs after that because they saw New York on my resume. So I would get these jobs. And then I worked, in New York, it was 12, 14, 15-hour days. And then the next job after that was slightly less. It was more like an 8, 10 hours. After that, I finally got a job doing a morning show in San Antonio, and that's when it kind of slowed down. I was working maybe from 4:30 or 5 until noon. But then here, I get in there at 5, maybe 5:30 if I feel like really stretching it, and I'll plan the show the night before. So I'm working at home a little bit.
That was my next question. Are you responsible for the material and the flow?
I'm responsible for planning where everything is going to go and what we're going to talk about. My co-host is responsible for, we do a segment where we talk about what's trending in Memphis, and she compiles all that. And we do a segment where we talk about what's going on with celebrities, and she gets all that together. And then the rest I'll kind of plan out. And it's a team thing. Like we work on what the show's going to be together. I'll plan the night before a little bit, and then the next morning I'll catch up on everything that happened overnight, and I'll plug it in if I need to. And then the show is from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. And then at 10:30, I don't even have a desk. At 10:30, it's time to go. All right, guys, you need anything from me? Great. See ya. Have a good time working. Or I'll go to lunch with some people, and then we're done with lunch, and they have to go back to work, and I get to go to the gym or do whatever I want to do.
No loose ends left behind.
I've never worked less hard in my entire life. I really don't do anything.
On the off chance that they were listening to you say this, would they be like, man, you can't be saying
I say it on the air. I say it. Everyone knows. Listen, when you hear this guy named after a dollar menu on the air, you're not expecting a lot.
That's true.
You're just like, oh, okay. And that's why when people complain, I can easily, I'll message back from the radio station's Facebook page if they message us on there. I'll say, yeah, we realized that he said that. It was probably pretty dumb. But we try not to take the guy named Nugget too seriously. And then they kind of realize, oh,
Fair enough.
yeah, that's a good point.
But there's a lot to be said for your style. I mean,
really
when I was introduced to you, I was told you got to get this guy Nugget on.
Really?
He's got a morning show. He's great. You're gonna love him. And he got the name Nugget by beating a 350-pound man in a.
Sold.
Was that the selling
And
point?
it was like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, if the guy could put on a
That's a
headset and
story.
start talking, then. And I may have asked if he worked out or had any fitness background. I really don't think I did.
Really?
I think that's the first time it's even come up.
Okay.
Or maybe Seth said you did. I didn't care.
We could do an hour of talking about nuggets if we wanted to.
For anybody. We could have anybody on here that's willing to talk to
Yeah,
us.
I want to debate like what the best nugget would be today if price weren't the issue.
I would
Ooh, that's a
say
good question.
I would say it's between Chick-fil-A.
That's what I was gonna say.
I
And
knew
here's
that
the
was gonna
thing,
be at the top of the list.
the thing is, McDonald's is the original nugget, and when you can get them when they're fresh
Fresh,
off
yes.
the Nug Press, they're delicious. It's when I'm off work and I'm gonna go there, it's the weird times. So I haven't had a great.
Are all of them doing like the real meat nuggets now as opposed to the meat juice that's in
Yeah.
the shape of a nugget?
It looks the same to me. It tastes the same. It doesn't taste that much. I mean, to be honest, I don't care what they do. Remember back in the day when you used to go to McDonald's and it was actually, you felt like, oh, this is kind of fresh. Like I feel like the burgers used to be hot when you got them, and I would get excited about it. Maybe it's just because I was a kid. But did you have that experience where when you were younger, did you feel like you liked it more and it tasted better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Do y'all remember the McDLT?
No.
No.
Y'all don't remember that?
BLT or DLT?
Keep the cool side cool. And they had
That
it
does
in a
ring a
box.
bell
They
now.
had the cold stuff over here and the hot stuff over here, and the idea was to put together.
Oh, that's
yeah,
a good idea.
yeah, I know what
Oh,
you're
But
talking
they
together
put
on
they
the
put
last
the
second.
cheese on the cold side, and it still
doesn't
bothers
work,
me to
yeah.
this day.
And the problem is, if you're going to McDonald's, the last thing you want to do is work. I mean, the point is convenience, right?
That's
Don't make
right.
me put together that's why I'm paying you.
Now, are
It's entirely too much effort to
Yeah.
have to take two halves of a
This is
sandwich
fast
and put them
food,
together.
people.
the McRib is coming back again.
Always.
The question would be: is the McRib sandwich, is that chicken nuggets? Is that one big chicken nuggets that's stamped to look like a rack of ribs?
I don't think it's chicken.
But it's not
You've exceeded
Rib
my
meat.
McDonald's knowledge.
either.
It's not?
I don't think so.
Shut the front door.
They don't get
Not that that's a
Porky's-
shock or
I think they
anything.
pick it up.
I thought I was eating at Rendezvous.
They just paint the nugget up as a.
If they were
It's a
ever going to
barbecue
advertise
sauce.
on my show, by the way, that's gone.
You just ruined that.
That's done.
Yeah, that's everything you say could
That would be
potentially
one
be
and-
one less
one and done.
advertiser that you have. Where can we find you? Where do you live? What's your address?
You want me to give it 7713 South?
No, don't do it.
Okay. I give out if you go on the Q1075 website, I put a little blog about myself, and then at the end it says my social media, and then at the very end it says social security. So it'll say like Twitter at Nugget in the AM, Instagram at Nugget in the AM, social security number, and then I put the number from like it was like in a rap song, like a Mike Jones rap song.
Oh, that's
And I
funny.
put that as my social security number, and people will message us and say, hey, I don't know if you guys knew this, but your host put his social security number on the website. I think it was an accident. But yeah,
you should change it to the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out code.
Yeah.
Get to
Oh,
Mike
that's
Tyson, see
good.
who picks up on that.
But at Nugget in the AM on every social media except Facebook, and that's Nugget Johnson.
And nuggetjohnson.com.
And nuggetjohnson.com is where I host all my shitty podcasts.
And your shitty podcast can be found.
NuggetJohnson.com. If you search Get Your Life Together on
Get Your Life
iTunes or
Together.
Stitcher, it'll come up. It's a big picture of my face because I don't have a graphic or a logo made yet. So that's a work in progress. And then on YouTube, Get Your Life Together. And especially, I just, before I got here, published the No Cheat November podcast where we kind of outline the parameters and rules. What we're doing is from November 1st until Thanksgiving, we're just not eating anything that you can't kill or grow. You can do seasoning, and you can do honey is the only sweetener we're letting through. And you can't do any supplements unless they are unflavored is the rule we made there.
Well, there you go.
And you can kind of see the podcast and how we came to all those decisions.
Anybody can enter that.
Anybody can be a part of it because we're not. It's just the honor system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're cutting it off at Thanksgiving though, because like
I
that
think
would've
it's
just
so
been-
unreasonable to be like, no, you can't drink on
I agree.
Thanksgiving. We need that alcohol on
That's
that day.
not- yeah.
Well, and all the crappy food that the family's going to make and bring. You know,
But if you
that's-
think about it, Thanksgiving would be the easiest day to eat.
if you were in control of all the stuff that you're making, it
Yes.
would be the easiest.
You just
But
eat
that's what I'm
turkey
saying.
all day.
because turkey, I mean, stuffing. There's nothing weird that goes in there.
For the record, your quote unquote shitty podcast is far from shitty, and it's awesome that you're doing it.
Thanks,
and I
man.
hope that you
Yeah, I
keep
agree.
it up.
I was going through the YouTube channel earlier today and listened to several of the episodes.
Really?
It's very good.
Oh,
It's
thank
very
you.
good. Yeah. And don't stop doing it
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. For
because
sure.
it's cool. Totally cool. Lift Heavy Run Long number 121 is in the books.
Boom.
121.